Well, we hear so much about the benefits of private schools compared to public schools, but is the extra money really worth it? Well, today we're going to be exploring that topic, looking at the costs and the benefits of some of the hottest private schools around in the D.C. area. And here to discuss this important topic is Ann Dolin. She's the president of Educational Connections here with us today. Hi, Ann. Good to see you again.
Great to see you.
So, you know, we're very fortunate here in the D.C. area. We have not only wonderful private schools, but we've got fantastic public schools too. We've got the best of both worlds.
We really do. And that's why it's such a hard decision for parents. You know, sometimes when they have a great school in their neighborhood, there are definitely pros and cons. Would the private school be better for their child, or should they stay with their home-based school?
And even if you are so lucky to be able to go to a magnet school that's out of your neighborhood, that still comes under the public school category.
Yes.
So you're not shelling out more for that.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Magnet schools, charter schools, those are all taking public funds.
Right. All right, well, let's talk about some of the pros of private education. Why would a parent choose to send their child to a private school?
Well, I think parents send their kids to private schools for a number of different reasons, and actually now they're called independent schools. That's more the term, which is interesting. But I'd say that, you know, now parents are thinking, well, what can my local public school offer? And what is the difference with a private school? For example, you know, maybe their child needs more academic rigor that their neighborhood school can't provide. They want their child to be pushed. They want their child to excel. Other parents may look at their student and say, you know what? He needs a lot more structure. He's having a hard time paying attention and to achieving potential. I may want a school specifically designed for kids with ADHD.
And then you could find one probably more easily in the private sector, right?
Yes, that's for sure. You know, the private sector really appeals to every child. You know, you have schools like the Sienna School in Silver Spring for kids with dyslexia that are very bright but have a glitch with reading. You have other schools that are sending kids to Ivy League colleges, and so their advanced curriculum is really appealing to parents as well.
For those headed to college, I'm sure parents are looking at things like you know, what kinds of what's the graduation rate? What kind of SAT scores does this school produce?
Right.
You know, if my child goes here, will I be able to get into this college of my choice, which may be a top-tier school or an Ivy League school?
Right.
And is it equally? Can your child get in on an equal basis if they go to public or private school?
That's the million-dollar question. Parents ask that all the time, and I'd say it honestly depends on the private school that your child is attending. You know, many of these schools are so well known for really preparing kids for college that when admissions officers see a child from their public school and a child from this school with similar GPAs, they're probably going to go with the child from the private school if they have very similar records.
Why is that?
Well, I think that they know the curriculum. They look at the class load the child is taking. They can see what types of classes they've taken. Are they challenging classes like college level classes such as AP or IB? And they also know that they have a track record with this school, that they are consistently producing top graduates that have been successful at their college.
Does it have anything to do with the financial situation of a family? I mean, do the colleges think, well, if this family can afford to send their child to undergraduate private school, they're going to have no problems with the tuition at this very exclusive college? Good
question. You know, it's interesting these days because I think years ago, private schools used to be somewhat elitist, but that is not the case anymore. In fact, 30% of kids at these independent schools are there on financial aid. It's very different these days. These schools want diversity. They want their school to look like a slice of America. So it's not the case where they see, oh, if the child can afford this private school, then they can afford my college, because they don't know if the child is there on financial aid.
That's good to know, especially with the high costs of both of those education levels. You know, some of the other reasons parents may choose private, I would think, would be they're looking at maybe class size.
They are.
Maybe like the student-teacher ratio. Are they going to get more individual attention in a private school?
I would definitely say yes, that's for sure, and that's one of the big bonuses of a private school. You know, in many of the counties in our area, you're looking at class sizes, even at the elementary level, of about 30 kids, and that's a lot for one teacher. But look at these private schools. I mean, they're boasting like a 12-to-1 ratio. One teacher for every 12 kids, or at tops 18 students in a class. So that's a big difference when you really get get to know your teacher, and you get a lot of individualized instruction.
You see it from both sides. What do you see as far as enrichment programs go? If you had a child, would you feel that they would have more opportunities for all kinds of extracurricular opportunities in a private school versus a public school?
Probably. You know, again, it certainly depends on the school, but I would say many of these private schools have pretty large endowments, some of them up to $100 million. So when you have that much money, you can afford to put money into technology. Maybe every child has a laptop, or you can have cutting-edge facilities. You can have state-of-the-art sports equipment and football fields. So it really does vary. But that is definitely a plus that many parents think about is beyond academics. What are the offerings at that school?
And probably some really great class trips too.
Oh,
some
yes.
Awesome places, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's another thing is that in their junior year, many schools offer a study abroad program, and that's appealing to a lot of families.
Well, I'll say. As far as the athlete goes, I would think it would be easier to get on a varsity team at a private school because there are fewer students versus, you know, the throngs that are trying to get on the one football team or the one whatever team for women.
It's really true.
Yeah, at a public school. So, I mean, for somebody that's really into athletics, would it be better to go to the public school?
Well, I just worked with a family that decided to go to a parochial school, Paul VI, which is in Fairfax, Virginia, instead of their local high school because they knew that their son would never make the basketball team, but that he could play basketball at this school. And so for many kids, you know, when something else is important outside of academics, like the football team, the soccer team, basketball team, that's definitely something to consider. And many parents make that leap because of sports.
Wow, I can imagine they would. Gives the kids an opportunity to play where they may not have played. They may have sat on the bench if they had gone to the other school. All right, so if you are a parent and you're thinking maybe, what am I going to go private school for my child next year? What's the time frame? When should they start looking? I mean, is it very, it must be very competitive. I would think there are dates to adhere to.
There are, yes. You know, you need to start about a year before and thinking about school. So in September, the applications are released. And then students will go on school visits, they'll arrange interviews, they'll get their application together. They'll take this test called the SSAT, which is like a junior version of the SAT. And at my company, we provide a lot of prep for those kids. They want to get top scores to bolster their chances. And then they have to submit everything in January. They hear back from the schools in March, and then they have to let the schools know by April whether they will attend or not. So right now, a lot of students are getting those letters. Did I make it? Did I not make the cut?
Time crunch is on.
Yes.
All right, Ann Dolin, thanks so much for joining us today. Lots of good information there about public schools and private schools. Appreciate
Thanks, Melanie.
it. All right, coming up next here on Let's Talk Live, step aside, Duggars. There is a new family in town, and we're going to tell you all about this new reality TV show. And if you have something to say, tweet us. Send it to Let's Talk Live DC.